Okay, let's just jump right in. We've all had those days, right? Or maybe even those years, where life just feels completely chaotic.
Yeah, like a string of just the worst luck imaginable. Right?
Exactly. You get fired, or there's a sudden expense you can't handle, a disaster that just feels personal. But what if none of that was random?
Hmm.
What if you could trace every single one of those unfortunate events back to, say, an angry god? Or a monster lurking just out of sight?
Or even a divine political feud that's been simmering for decades, and you've just stumbled into the middle of it.
Well, that is precisely the premise of the file we're looking at today. We are tracking the documented and frankly bewildering early experiences of a young man named Percy Jackson.
Right, a kid who, for all he knew, his biggest problem was maybe, his inability to keep a locker clean.
And then he finds out his real problem is that he is basically a magnet for mythological trouble.
A huge magnet. We are tracking what is essentially a road trip to the underworld, disguised as a learning opportunity. It's a dizzying few weeks where this kid, Percy, goes from being a frequently expelled prep school student at Yancey Academy
To suddenly being thrown into a world filled with half-bloods, satyrs, centaurs, and, the most high-stakes political intrigue you can imagine.
So our mission today is really to synthesize all this information. We need to go beyond just a summary of what happened and try to understand the fundamental mechanics of this secret reality.
Like, how does the world of Olympus even coexist with our modern world?
Exactly, and what are the real costs of these ancient oaths the gods swore? And maybe most importantly, what does the sudden appearance of a powerful new hero mean for the very fragile geopolitical landscape of Western civilization itself?
This dive requires immediate focus because the pace of the events in these sources, it just respects no one's time, least of all Percy's.
Not at all.
So let's jump straight into that mechanism, the way his supposedly normal life just fractured. Because if chaos truly is mythology coming alive, then Percy's academic failures have to be the first shot in his first monster attack.
The initial profile we have of Percy Jackson it's classic troubled youth. He's got frequent expulsions, trouble focusing, and he's been diagnosed with learning differences, ADHD, and dyslexia.
Right, but the sources immediately flip that on its head. They introduce this concept that these aren't flaws at all.
No, they're inherited divine traits.
I think this recontextualization of his diagnoses is one of the most compelling insights in the whole file. When the letters float off the page when he's trying to read, it's not dyslexia.
It's because his mind is, and this is a direct quote, hardwired for ancient Greek.
He's just reading the wrong language.
Exactly. And his ADHD, that impulsiveness, that inability to sit still, the hypervigilance.
All of that gets reframed as battlefield reflexes. He's basically pre-programmed to scan his environment for danger.
Because danger is, quite literally, always just around the corner. These aren't just, personality quirks. They are crucial survival mechanisms for a demigod living in a very, very dangerous world.
And his antagonists, even the human ones, they were already something more. Before any big monster reveals, you have Nancy Bobofit, the, predictable, snickering bully.
And then there's Mrs. Dodds, the pre-algebra teacher. Percy instinctively felt there was something off about her, something calculating and not quite human. He even notes this dangerous, triumphant fire in her eyes whenever he got into trouble.
And that intuition, it was proven horribly correct during a museum field trip.
Yeah. Their Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner, who we later find out is secretly the centaur Chiron, is giving a lecture on Greek mythology.
Specifically about Kronos, the Titan, eating his own divine children.
And Percy, despite his supposed dyslexia, he manages to recall this one specific detail about Zeus using a mixture of wine and mustard to trick Kronos into
barfing up his brothers and sisters.
That's the one. And this moment of clarity is immediate. Mrs. Dodd seizes on it to isolate Percy, dragging him deeper into the museum.
And then she transforms right in front of him into this monstrous entity, demanding to know how he thought he would get away with it.
The veil just tears completely. Mrs. Dodds reveals her true form as a kindly one of the furies from the underworld. A leathery hag with bat wings and a whip made of fire.
It's terrifying. And then, in an instant, Mr. Brunner throws Percy a pen.
Just a ballpoint pen, but it's not. It transforms into a shimmering celestial bronze sword, Riptide. Percy defends himself, he strikes the monster, and she just dissolves.
Into a shower of golden dust. Gone.
The incredible part, though, is the immediate aftermath. It's chilling. Percy walks back outside, completely confused, and he asks his friend Grover where Mrs. Dodds went.
And Grover and the entire class, they all claim she never existed.
They insist their pre-algebra teacher since Christmas has been a perky blonde woman named Mrs. Kerr. It's instantaneous, systematic gaslighting on a massive scale.
And this introduces what is probably the most important systemic concept for this whole deep dive: the mist.
Mist. It's described as this powerful phenomenon managed by the forces of Olympus that obscures the vision of normal humans. It forces them to interpret divine or monstrous events in ways that fit their version of reality.
So a monstrous fury with a flaming whip just becomes a boring substitute teacher. A sword fight in a museum becomes a public freakout.
Exactly. The mist protects mortals from mass panic, but at what cost? For demigods like Percy, it makes them perpetually question their own sanity.
Yeah, the sources really paint a picture of him constantly struggling to reconcile what he saw with what everyone else remembers.
And this leads to this escalation of external weirdness. Even if the mortals are oblivious because of the mist, the signs of a divine conflict are everywhere.
We hear about the extreme freak weather across the country: massive snowstorms, floods, unseasonal wildfires.
And the file notes an unusual number of small planes that had gone down in sudden squalls in the Atlantic.
Which Percy tries to rationalize. He thinks, oh, it's global warming, which is exactly the kind of comfortable, mist-induced interpretation that keeps society functioning.
Right. But the sources reveal this environmental chaos is a symptom of a massive escalating feud between the big three, specifically Zeus and Poseidon. When gods fight, their territory erupts, and the modern world pays the price in infrastructure failure and disaster.
The danger is closing in on him personally, too. We get that crucial eavesdropped conversation just before Percy is expelled from Yancey.
He overhears Chiron, still disguised as Mr. Brunner, talking to Grover. They confirm that a kindly one in the school validates all their suspicions about Percy's powerful parentage.
And they mention a summer solstice deadline, which sets this urgent, unknown countdown for some kind of potential global conflict.
Then we get the truly ominous moment, the fates, which the sources suggest only appear when someone is about to die.
This happens on the bus ride home from school.
The bus breaks down on a country road, and they stumble on this old-fashioned fruit stand. There are 3 ancient women sitting there, knitting what Percy describes as the biggest pair of socks I'd ever seen.
They're the size of sweaters. And the sources note a specific detail. The lady in the middle is holding electric blue yarn.
Blue yarn. A visual cue that connects right back to the theme of Percy's mother and her small acts of defiance against the mundane.
But then one of these fates pulls out these massive gold and silver shears, long-bladed like sheep shears, and she snips the yarn.
Grover's reaction is immediate and just. Visceral. The color drains from his face, his nose starts twitching uncontrollably, and he forces Percy back onto the hot bus, absolutely terrified.
Because the fates only appear before a death, so why snip the thread and then let him live?
It suggests his previous life, his mortal life, died at that exact moment. Or maybe, as a son of Poseidon, his destiny is merely postponed, but the thread of his life has been fundamentally altered. It's a warning.
And a sign that the gods are watching his every single move. It's this ominous sign-off, confirming his fate is no longer controlled by his own choices, but by immortal beings who treat mortality like it's just yarn.
So now, we move from that creeping paranoia of the everyday world into the explosive realization of who Percy actually is.
And who has been protecting him this whole time. This all starts with the one safe harbor in his life: his mother, Sally Jackson.
Sally is introduced as the best person in the world, but she's saddled with perpetually rotten luck. She was orphaned young, had to sacrifice her dreams, and she ended up with this absolute lowlife, smelly Gabe Ugliano.
But the brilliance of her character is in her quiet defiance, her resilience. She eats blue foods, blue birthday cakes, blue smoothies.
Specifically because Gabe once told her there was no such thing as blue food. It's this tiny, powerful act of rebellion against the cynicism that surrounds her.
And crucially, she kept her maiden name, Jackson. She maintained her own identity despite all that ugliness.
But the sources reveal the true and frankly shocking reason she stayed with Smelly Gabe. It wasn't just weakness or bad luck.
It was a profound sacrificial strategy.
Grover later confirms that demigods give off this powerful scent that attracts monsters. So Sally stayed with Gabe specifically because his repulsive scent, his body odor, his whole nasty aura acted as a powerful non-magical masking agent.
A literal shield, protecting Percy from monster attacks for years.
She chose misery to ensure her son's survival. And that protective bubble, it bursts the moment Grover arrives at their cabin in Montauk, pantsless, in the middle of a torrential storm.
And that's when the protective parent role shifts to the reluctant protector role of Grover, who is finally revealed to be a satyr, half man, half goat.
He bleats out defensively, "I'm a goat from the waist down!" And the truth just comes rushing out. The myths are real, the kindly one was suppressed by the mist, and they are in mortal danger right now.
And the danger manifests immediately, in the form of the Minotaur, a huge, fuzzy, horned bullman who Sally identifies as Pasiphae's son.
It's an immediate life-or-death confrontation that ends in just profound trauma for Percy.
The Minotaur crushes Sally, and she doesn't die a normal death. She dissolves into a shower of shimmering yellow light.
For Percy, this is the ultimate catastrophe. Witnessing his mother just disappear in this grotesque metamorphosis. And fueled by rage and despair, he fights the monster.
He manages to snap off one of its massive horns and defeat it. It's a classic heroic feat, but it's born out of just complete emotional devastation.
The cognitive dissonance when he wakes up at Camp Half-Blood must have been immense.
Oh, absolutely. He's being nursed by Annabeth Chase, this formidable girl with striking gray eyes, a clear giveaway that her mother is Athena.
And then he sees his old Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner, now fully revealed as Chiron, the centaur.
Chiron's cover story is genius, really. He admits he took the teaching job at Yancey Academy just to instruct Percy after Grover sensed he was something special.
It confirms that even our institutions of learning are deeply compromised by this divine world. They're acting as recruitment hubs and safety zones.
So let's analyze the sociological structure of this hidden world. Camp Half-Blood. It's tucked away in a valley on the north shore of Long Island, disguised by the mist, and it's filled with ancient Greek architecture and training grounds.
The governance structure is immediately absurd. The camp director is Mr. D. Dionysus, the god of wine.
Who looks like a cherub who'd turned middle-aged in a trailer park.
His backstory is essential to understanding the politics of Olympus. He pursued a wood nymph who was off-limits, so Zeus punished him by sending him to Half-Blood Hill.
For a century, he's forced to work with youths, and he's forbidden from drinking wine. He has to drink Diet Coke instead.
A punishment he calls prohibition. Ghastly. It just shows the petty, restrictive nature of Zeus's rule, where even fellow gods are subjected to these absurd, long-term punishments.
And the housing situation at camp instantly highlights Percy's status, and really the systemic neglect the gods show their own children.
The 12 main cabins correspond to the 12 Olympians. Cabin 3, Poseidon's cabin, is empty and lonely. So Percy is initially placed in Cabin 11, the overcrowded, peeling paint cabin of Hermes.
Cabin 11 is basically a crucible of resentment. It houses all travelers, children of minor gods who don't rate their own cabin.
And, crucially, all the undetermined demigods who haven't been claimed yet. So Hermes, as the god of travelers, accepts the burden of all the neglected children.
This is where we meet Luke Castellan, the popular senior counselor who helps Percy settle in. And it's important to note, the sources mention Luke felt a keen affinity for sponsoring these new, undetermined kids.
This detail about the overcrowded, marginalized cabin system is critical. It shows that even within this supposed safe haven, there's a deep hierarchy and a source of real pain, which is going to fuel the great betrayal later on.
Finally, there's the perimeter defense. The entire valley is protected by the spirit of Thalia, a daughter of Zeus.
She sacrificed herself at the property line to save her friends, Annabeth and Luke, from an onslaught of monsters. So Zeus, maybe out of pity, maybe out of political necessity, turned her into a massive pine tree whose spirit protects the valley border.
Which confirms that even years ago, the consequences of that Big Three oath were deadly.
And right on cue, the peaceful facade of Camp Half-Blood just collapses as the sheer magnitude of the Olympian political crisis is revealed.
Yeah, this isn't just about local monster hunting. This is potentially a global conflict that threatens to tear Western civilization apart.
We have to start with the context of the Big Three oath. The source of all this tension is between the three most powerful divine brothers, the sons of Kronos Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades.
After World War II, which was a war fought largely between their children, they swore a sacred oath on the river Styx to sire no more heroes.
So why was World War II the breaking point? We have to think about the scale. Previous conflicts like the Trojan War were brutal, but WWII involved industrialized mass casualty warfare.
So when you have demigods blessed with battlefield reflexes and divine power involved in that level of modern conflict,
the carnage must have been immense. It forced the gods to fear their own power, their own progeny. The oath wasn't about morality. It was about self-preservation, fear of global destruction.
And that fragile peace guaranteed by that oath is now shattered because Zeus's symbol of power, the master bolt, has been stolen.
And this isn't just a lightning strike. It's described as a 2-foot-long cylinder of high-grade celestial bronze, capped with god-level explosives. It is the ultimate weapon, and its disappearance is an existential threat to Olympus.
Zeus immediately jumps to a conclusion. He believes Poseidon has broken the oath, using a human hero, Percy, as a proxy.
He accuses Poseidon of orchestrating the theft so he can secretly build an arsenal of illegal copies at the Cyclops forges under the ocean.
And the timing is everything. Poseidon claiming Percy right at this moment makes Percy the proverbial last straw.
Zeus's wrath is already manifesting in those severe, disruptive weather patterns we saw across the country. If the bolt isn't returned, the sources suggest Zeus will start World War III against Poseidon on the summer solstice.
Which is just 10 days away.
Chiron warns that this conflict would make the Trojan War look like a water balloon fight. The sheer destructive power of two of the three most powerful beings on the planet would inevitably lead to the dismantling of the modern world as we know it.
But Chiron suspects the true orchestrator isn't Zeus or Poseidon.
He thinks it's Hades, the Lord of the Dead, who has turned. And there are three key pieces of evidence for this.
Okay.
First, a Fury Mrs. Dodds hunted Percy. Second, a Hellhound, which can only be summoned from the fields of punishment, successfully attacked the camp. And third, Annabeth later reveals that Hades' own symbol of power, his Helm of Darkness, is also missing, a detail Zeus doesn't even know about.
Which implies a terrifying scenario. Hades must have a spy inside the camp, and he wants the big three to destroy each other so he can, pick up the pieces?
Exactly. It shifts the threat from a two-way dispute to a triangulated scheme.
Before they can even leave, Percy has to go to the Oracle, a withered mummy in the attic of the big house, to get his official quest prophecy.
It's delivered as this ancient, chilling rhyme. And though Percy initially withholds the last two lines from Chiron, the full prophecy just hangs over the entire journey.
The prophecy is, "You shall go west and face the god who has turned. You shall find what was stolen and see it safe returned. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end."
It's an immediate sentence of dread. Most prophecies offer, some ambiguous hope, but this one promises betrayal and failure right from the start.
Imagine setting out on a quest knowing you will fail at some vital task and knowing you can't trust one of the few allies you have.
He's prepared with his magical tools at least. Riptide, the sword pen that always returns to his pocket.
And Luke, the friendly senior counselor from Cabin 11, gives Grover a pair of winged shoes.
But Chiron gives a crucial warning here. Flying is unwise for a son of Poseidon, as the sky is Zeus's territory. This immediately places that gift from Luke under suspicion, even if Percy doesn't realize it yet.
They barely even get started before their first major assault. They board a Greyhound bus.
And the three Furies, including the reformed Mrs. Dodds, show up looking for it.
Annabeth uses her invisibility cap, a gift from her mother, Athena, but the Furies can sense Percy's overpowering Big Three scent.
Annabeth realizes the mist is failing. The Furies are so disruptive that even mortals are starting to see three old ladies killing three kids.
So Percy, in a moment of pure, impulsive, ADHD-driven action, hits the emergency brake.
The bus crashes, he accidentally makes himself a highly wanted fugitive, and it forces them into the dangerous world of hitchhiking across the entire country.
So this journey west, it's not just a geographical trip, it's a series of meticulously designed mythological traps.
And each one preys on the specific weaknesses and needs of a demigod.
The first one is a classic psychological trap, Auntie M's Garden Gnome Emporium. They just stumble upon this place, drawn in by the smell of hamburgers and the promise of a meal.
The sources describe the shop as having these unnervingly detailed, life-sized cement statues. One of them even makes Grover bleat, "Looks like my Uncle Ferdinand."
Yeah, that's a bad sign. Auntie M, veiled and unsettling, she uses psychological manipulation. She pressures them to pose for a photograph, preying on their exhaustion and hunger.
And Auntie M is, of course, Medusa. Annabeth is terrified. She's heard stories from her mother, Athena, about the curse. When the confrontation happens, Percy uses a key tactical move.
The reflective surface of a gazing ball in the garden. He uses it to avoid looking directly at her snake hair.
And with Riptide, he beheads Medusa. It's a moment of tactical ingenuity that's born purely of desperation. But the aftermath is what's critical for the plot.
Percy, in this powerful act of just impertinence, he seals Medusa's head in a box and mails it via Hermes Overnight Express to the God's Mount Olympus, 600th floor, Empire State Building.
This arrogant act serves an unexpected purpose. It forces him to look at the shipping receipts in Medusa's office.
And he finds a crucial clue. Recent sales of statues shipped to Hades' billing address, DOA Recording Studios, West Hollywood, California.
It's a moment of pure Athenian strategy. They now know the location of the underworld entrance.
Their journey continues, taking them into Denver, where they stop for a meal and are intentionally intercepted by Ares, the god of war.
He's riding a massive motorcycle with a gruesome human skin seat. This detail is important. Ares is the savage, brutal aspect of conflict. He is literally sitting on the remains of his victims.
And Ares immediately engages in emotional hijacking. He targets Percy's anger, his resentment, his bitterness over his life, and his mother's disappearance.
Then he commissions them to retrieve his shield from an abandoned water park, the thrill ride of love.
Ares seals the deal by implying he knows Percy's mother is not dead, but is just being kept as a hostage by Hades.
And this single piece of information completely hijacks Percy's quest. It stops being about saving the world from war and becomes solely about saving his mother. It proves how easily the gods can manipulate a demigod's most profound emotional attachments.
So retrieving the shield leads them directly into a secondary trap.
Right, a highly intricate golden net set by Hephaestus to catch his unfaithful wife, Aphrodite, and Ares. This shows the petty, ongoing domestic dramas of Olympus intersecting dangerously with these demigod quests.
The trap is very technical, very modern. It's triggered by touching the shield, which is connected by a metal filament tripwire marked the Greek letter eta.
For anyone listening who knows their Greek alphabet, eta H stands for Hephaestus. It's his signature on the trap. It's a highly technological, highly humiliating modern invention.
Annabeth, as a daughter of Athena, recognizes the trap, but it's too late. The net unleashes thousands of tiny metallic wind-up spiders.
Annabeth's greatest fear, reflecting that ancient feud between Athena and Arachne. And they're about to be broadcast live to Olympus, confirming that the gods use the lives of demigods as entertainment in their own endless soap opera.
But Percy saves the day by realizing his inherent connection to the sea. He orders Grover to the controller's booth to turn on the water pipes.
The tidal wave that follows flushes them out, live on Olympus TV, saving them from the mechanical spider army. It's a powerful moment where Percy's hydrokinesis finally emerges, but he is still so far from mastering it.
But any momentum they gained from that successful, if embarrassing, escape is immediately lost at the next stop, the Lotus Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas.
This trap isn't designed for violence, it's for temporal paralysis.
The whole environment is designed to keep you trapped and happy forever. There are hypnotic lotus flowers laced into the food, the air.
The details are seductive. Free rooms, unlimited Lotus Cash cards for every game, an indoor bungee jumping bridge. It preys specifically on a demigod's need for safety and just a break from constant grinding reality.
But Percy starts noticing the time discrepancy. He's talking to Disco Darren, a guy who's been stuck there since 1977, and others who don't know the real year.
The Lotus Casino is a microcosm of temporal chaos. It just absorbs time and productivity.
The realization dawns when he forces Annabeth out of a city-building VR game by snapping her out of the trance with the word spiders.
They discover they've lost 5 critical days. What they thought was a few hours was nearly a week. It pushes their deadline to the very last day, June 20th.
This wasn't a violent attack, but it was an effective silent war against time, confirming their enemies excel at delaying and distracting the heroes.
With the deadline now basically on top of them, the trio reaches Los Angeles, and they locate the entrance Medusa's receipt pointed to, DOA Recording Studios.
At the studio, they meet Charon. He's this tall, elegant security guard in tortoiseshell shades and a silk suit.
Charon, the ferryman of the dead, is immediately annoyed when Percy mistakes him for Chiron, the centaur. This small detail highlights the petty, hierarchical nature of even the minor deities who run the bureaucracy of the underworld.
Charon initially refuses them passage, claiming dead children never die prepared.
Until Percy produces the golden drachmas they found back in Medusa's shop. This confirms that the ancient rule still applies. You have to pay the ferryman.
Crossing the river Styx, they face Cerberus, the massive 3-headed hellhound.
And Annabeth, daughter of Athena, demonstrates an incredibly high level of tactical knowledge. She treats the massive beast like a normal dog. She uses a bright red rubber ball to distract it so they can get through the gate to Erebus.
It's a total triumph of wit over brute force.
They press on to Hades' palace. In the throne room, Hades confirms his own symbol of power, the Helm of Darkness, is also missing. He believes Percy has brought the Master Bolt to blackmail him into supporting Poseidon in the coming war.
So Hades here isn't necessarily pure evil. He's just deeply paranoid and convinced he's being conspired against by his brothers.
Then comes the devastating discovery. Hades looses a ball of gold fire, and there is Percy's mother, Sally Jackson, frozen in a shimmering golden light. It confirms Ares' claim. She was a hostage all along.
Hades demands the bolt and threatens to keep one of Percy's friends behind for eternity, pointing out Percy only has 3 of the Nereid's pearls for escape.
In the panic, Percy rips open the backpack Ares gave him, the one he was commissioned to carry, and he finds the 2-foot-long master bolt tucked inside, wrapped in a denim jacket.
This is the ultimate realization of betrayal. Ares used this naive demigod as the final, ignorant delivery service.
To plant the master bolt directly in Hades' domain, framing him and ensuring war would break out no matter what.
But the conspiracy runs so much deeper than just Ares. Percy recalls that voice in the pit from his dreams, ancient, heavy, and cold.
This is the source material confirming the true orchestrator. Kronos, the Titan Lord, imprisoned in Tartarus.
We have to understand the significance of Kronos. The Titans represent the old order, the generation before the Olympians. His return signifies not just war, but the destruction of time itself, the systematic dismantling of Western civilization.
Which, as Chiron suggests, is the very flame that keeps the Olympians alive.
Yeah.
Ares is just a manipulated pawn in a generational power play.
Hades is just another victim of the theft. Percy faces an impossible choice. Use the 3 pearls to save himself and his friends, leaving his mother behind.
Or sacrifice his friends to save her. He chooses to escape with his friends, intending to face Ares directly. It's a painful moral choice made under extreme duress.
The final, decisive battle takes place on Santa Monica Beach, early on the morning of the solstice. Ares is immediately confrontational.
Percy confronts him, calling out the lie. He forces Ares to admit he only caught the true thief, who we now suspect is Luke, but didn't turn him in.
Percy correctly deduces that Ares was ordered by a greater entity in the pit, Kronos, to continue the conspiracy by planting the bolt.
The battle begins. Ares transforms his baseball bat into a massive 2-handed sword. But Percy, for the first time, fully harnesses his connection to the sea.
He holds back the tide, creating immense pressure, and then releases it, riding a 6-foot wall of water straight over the war god.
Disoriented, Ares fails to anticipate the final move. Percy stabs Riptide straight down into the god's heel.
A furious roar follows, and golden ichor, the blood of the gods, flows from the wound. The symbolism here is so thick, a clear reference to the vulnerability of Achilles. It demonstrates that even a god of Ares' stature can be wounded by a hero leveraging his environment and his wit.
This humiliation is immediately followed by a chilling, powerful presence descending on the beach. A cold, heavy force that drains light and color, slowing time.
Kronos' influence, it halts the battle.
Ares vanishes, leaving behind his helm of darkness, which Percy returns to the Furies, satisfying Hades' grievance.
So the prophecy is completed, mostly. Percy flies the Master Bolt to the Empire State Building, to Olympus, returning the items just in time and averting World War III. But he still needs to confront that remaining painful line of the prophecy.
You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend.
And the betrayal comes not from a god, but from Luke Castellan, the popular senior counselor from Cabin 11 who gave Grover the winged shoes.
Luke admits that those shoes were cursed. They were designed to drag the wearer straight down into the chasm of Tartarus to deliver the Master Bolt to Kronos' servants.
Luke then delivers his chilling manifesto, the core anti-Western civilization ideology that fuels the Titan cause. He admits his allegiance to Kronos, calling him father. He confirms he was the original thief who stole both the bolt and the helm.
He argues, and this is a quote, "Western civilization is a disease, Percy. It's killing the world. The only way to stop it is to burn it to the ground, start over with something more honest."
And this ideology stems directly from the systemic neglect of demigods at Camp Half-Blood, all those kids trapped in Cabin 11. Luke believes the gods are parasitic, using their children as pawns while offering no real guidance or support.
Luke then attempts to kill Percy with his scorpion, whose venom is lethal to a half-blood, leaving him to die. Percy is barely saved by Chiron's healing nectar.
This whole experience forces Percy to re-examine that last line of the prophecy. You shall fail to save what matters most in the end.
He realizes he failed to save his mother by keeping her. He let her go free. He chose her autonomy over keeping her hostage in the underworld.
By choosing to face Ares instead of escaping with the pearls immediately, he gave her the chance to be released honorably. It proves that sometimes the failure a hero has to accept isn't a loss of power, but a difficult, morally righteous choice.
So the synthesis of these initial harrowing experiences is clear. The modern world is actively governed by immortal deities whose domestic squabbles manifest as global catastrophes.
And the greatest threats, they don't come from random lone monsters. They come from internal Olympian conflict and, most dangerously, from heroes like Luke, who feel betrayed and are swayed by the power of the imprisoned titans.
The mist remains the key mechanism, shielding humanity even as demigods are forced to live on the run, their inherited traits, ADHD, dyslexia, making normal life impossible. But the true resolution isn't about the gods.
It's about the mortal consequences.
And Sally Jackson's fate, secured by Percy's success, provides this perfect rebellious piece of closure. Hades honored his debt and released her. She returned home to find the boxed Medusa head, which Poseidon had sent her after Percy mailed it.
She used the head to turn smelly Gabe into a statue. The ultimate act of self-empowerment and revenge, all disguised as efficiency.
She claimed the massive insurance money from Gabe's disappearance and subsequent artwork discovery, giving herself the freedom to pursue her long-deferred dream of becoming a novelist.
It's the ultimate inversion of the typical mythological tragedy, yet the underlying threat is still there, unresolved. Luke, a brilliant betrayed hero, is now actively working for Kronos, believing Western civilization is a disease that has to be cleansed.
And if, as Chiron suggested, Western civilization is the flame that keeps the gods alive,
Then Luke is committed to extinguishing that flame.
the Master Bolt was returned. But the fundamental issues, the gods' neglect, the hierarchy of Camp Half-Blood, the existential threat of Kronos, have only been exposed.
The prophecy about failing to save what matters most still hangs in the air, unresolved. If the fate of Western civilization is what matters most, then Percy Jackson's return to Camp Half-Blood isn't an ending.
It's merely the calm before the next far more dangerous conflict. The world you inhabit is constantly being manipulated by forces you can't see. So the question you should ask yourself is, if you knew the truth, would you choose the comfort of the mist?
Or the terrifying reality of the quest. It certainly makes those Monday morning staff meetings seem a little easier. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the collision of mythology and modernity. Now go check your pockets. You never know what kind of magical pen you might find.